Hailing from Camden, Alabama, Ivey has been leading and making history since high school. A short 60 years ago, she was elected Lieutenant Governor here at Alabama Girls State. She went on to be the first female Vice President of the Auburn SGA. After graduation, she had a stint as a public school teacher and then as a bank officer. But inevitably, Ivey entered public service. She was the first Republican elected state treasurer since Reconstruction and the first Republican woman to hold the office of Lieutenant Governor in Alabama's history. Just over 5 years ago, Ivey was sworn in as the state's 54th governor. She became Alabama's second female governor and first female Republican governor. She took office at a difficult time and quickly moved to steady the ship of state. Today, she is focused on improving education, creating more jobs for Alabamians, and improving the state's infrastructure. But the greatest hallmark of her administration is to bring a bucket load of common sense to every problem. Please join me in a warm Girl State welcome for the governor of the great state of Alabama, Governor Ivey.
Well, good morning, Girl Staters. It's always a highlight of my year to get to spend some time speaking with Alabama Girl Staters. And I'm especially honored to join you as governor and, of course, as a former Girl Stater. I'd like to begin by thanking my dear friend and longtime dear friend, Lee Sellers, director of Alabama Girl State. Lee, I know the delegates in this room and so many others who have been here over the years are grateful for your hard work and your leadership in putting on the best Girl State program in the nation. I'd also like to thank the American Legion Auxiliary for sponsoring this program. It simply would not be possible without them. Well, ladies, it's day 4 of Girl State, and I know you're already soaking it all in. You're learning how to be an effective citizen. You're making friends. And let me tell you, these friends will be with you for a lifetime. Trust me, I know when I was Lieutenant Governor of Girl State, my governor was Marilyn Tamplin. And I understand she's on board this week, but away for the day. And here at Girl State, you're becoming a part of a large network of people that, in reality, make the world seem a little smaller. In the governor's office alone, we have several Girl Staters on staff. Lee Sellers, of course, all of whom you know is director of Girl State, but on my staff, she serves as Director of Special Projects. She was mayor during her time here at Girl State. Liz Fillmore. I was proud to appoint Liz as the first female chief of staff for any Alabama governor. She also served as mayor of Girl State. And Annabelle Roth is here, and she's Director of Scheduling and confidential assistant to the governor. Annabelle is a counselor this year. And Mary Kate Hillis, who just joined my staff last week, is a former Girl Stater. Sailor Cozart is a student at the University of Alabama, former Girl Stater, and is one of my interns this year. It's a safe guess that you all know at least one person in your life right now who also participated in Girl State. And I can guarantee you that you will meet even more in college and in your career, whatever direction you go in. Maybe you want to run for office one day. Katie Britt, who was governor her year at Girl State, is on a path to the United States Senate. Or maybe you want to be a doctor. Farrah Gaston, a former Girl Stater from Camden, is a doctor now and in town this week to help us out on staff. No matter the direction that you want to take in life, this week at Girl State is already preparing you to get there. At Girl State, our focus is on legacy of leadership, a heritage to honor, a future to form. A heritage to honor and a future to form. And that's what I want to spend a few minutes speaking with you to all of you today. Here in this country, we have a great heritage to honor, and ultimately, we form our future of instruction here at Girl State. First, we learn how to be effective citizens in the city, county, and the state. Young ladies, never forget that being a citizen of the United States of America is a high calling. We honor our founding fathers and the Bill of Rights in the United States Constitution. The Constitution gives every citizen, natural born or naturalized, all of the rights and freedoms of citizenship. We citizens are important to democracy and freedom. We citizens vote. We serve on juries. Citizens can be appointed to positions of service in government. Citizens are elected to public office. Citizens as individuals are important, plain and simple. That's each of you. That's me. That's everyone in this room. And we should never, ever take being a citizen of this great country for granted. As citizens, we also know we have a responsibility and a duty to protect the freedoms that we are granted in the Constitution. Our freedoms are a God-given right. There's no better, no simpler way around it. And our freedoms are protected by those tremendous Americans who answered the call to serve our nation in the military. We can all be proud to be Alabamians. We live in a pro-military state. And in fact, I'd say we live in the most pro-military state in the nation. So as we learn here at Girl State, individual citizens are important. We honor the men and women who fight to protect our freedoms. And lastly, we must show proper respect to the United States flag. Now, some of you may have already heard by now that I feel very strongly about giving the proper salute to the flag. And I hope y'all hadn't gotten too comfortable in your seats. You guessed it. It's time for your Pledge of Allegiance lesson given by Ivey. Please stand. When you stand and give the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, pledging allegiance means you are absolutely making a commitment. It's stronger than a promise. You're pledging allegiance. So with that, when somebody says, let's pledge allegiance, you stand, and you stand at attention. Nothing in your hands. Hands by the wayside. Shoulders back. Stand up straight just like soldiers do. So attention. Then salute, right hand over your heart. Elbow parallel to the ground. Not drooping. Parallel to the ground. Hand over your heart. Elbow parallel to the ground. When y'all go off after high school, wherever you are, you can tell a girl stay. So attention, salute, and pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Y'all remember that and practice it often. Being patriotic citizens involves two things: honoring and supporting those who serve and showing proper respect for the United States flag. Young ladies, here on day 4 of your Girls State experience, you can be proud already of yourselves. And this week is different than the rest. Well, both my mom and dad played a profound impact on my life, especially growing up in Camden. Girls State is where my passion for service truly began. And my love for service continued when I was a student at Auburn University. My first year at Auburn, I wanted to run for freshman senator for SGA. And at that time, there was a SGA for all girls, and then there was the regular SGA. Everyone told me I needed to run for the women's SGA. But I thought I could make more of a difference if I was a part of the bigger student government. So I said, no thanks. I'm going to run with the boys and run against them. I went on to be elected freshman senator, sophomore senator, secretary of the student body, to the homecoming court, and then as the first female vice president of Auburn regular SGA. If you're sitting there wondering why in the world the governor of Alabama's sharing this time with you about my experiences at Auburn, the point is, it's not always about being the first female for this or for that to be chosen for a position. It's not about being elected to the position. Whether you're a man or a woman, a governor, a doctor, a U.S. senator, it's about being the person to make a real difference. And I knew I'd be able to do that if I chose to run against the boys for SGA. And delegates, let me remind you, there's a difference between a politician and a statesman. A politician focuses on winning the next election. A statesman focuses on the next generation, like all of you in this room. Very often, I get asked, especially by young ladies, what's it like to be a female in a male-dominated field? Well, my response is always the same. I don't think about it. Sometimes you may be the one red suit in a room of black and navy, but y'all, that doesn't matter either. If you are the right person for the job, then you are there to do that job and to make progress. Whether you're a business person, a teacher, a medical professional, or governor. I firmly believe that whoever is the most qualified person should be the one to get the job. And as I like to say, sometimes the best man for a job is a woman. A few moments ago, I mentioned that our focus here at Girls State is on a heritage to honor and a future to form. To close, let me speak a few moments to that future, your future. Girls State is not just a week. It's a state of mind, an attitude, a way of thinking that has stuck with me my entire life. And now every day when I enter the governor's office in the Capitol, I take with me the virtues that Girls State so ably instilled in me. I hope and I know that you too will leave here with these same virtues and take them with you whatever your future directions may take. Leave this week in Girls State with an understanding that the beauty of our democracy is that all people, even a girl from Wilcox County, can make a difference if we simply try. Y'all, it's been a real honor to join y'all again today. May God continue to bless each of you and the great state of Alabama.
As a soldier marches into battle, Liz Huntley marched into a battlefield of life, but she did it as a child. Her victories are legendary and numerous. Graduation from Auburn University and the University of Alabama School of Law, a partnership in one of Alabama's most prestigious law firms, Lightfoot Franklin, and was selected by the Alabama legislature as a member of the Board of Trustees of Auburn University. She serves on numerous other boards. She has worked intensely to expand the high-quality pre-K to all 4-year-olds and was named a 2020 Momentum Top 5 Woman of Impact in Alabama. Her book, More Than a Bird, is a must-read inspiration. Her life is an example of the power of hope. Liz and her husband have 2 daughters and 1 son. You met one daughter, Ada Ruth, when she spoke yesterday, and her other daughter, Sarah Beth, was here to cheer her on. They both were here at Girls State and were rock stars. Please welcome one of the most inspiring of people, Liz Huntley.
Okay, well, I just looked at the agenda of what you guys have done so far this week, and y'all don't need me. Lord have mercy. And for me to come after Governor Ivey, I was like, wow. Last year it was the opposite. She came after me, and we were like ships passing in the night. And so you guys have gotten the cream of the crop, and I'm so proud of Ada Ruth and her getting to be here with you yesterday. Now, I know for a lot of people it kind of freaks them out. Our voice sounds the same, doesn't it? I thought I would say that, and she gets that all the time. I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing that you sort of sound like your mother, but I will say that I'm truly proud of her, and I'm proud of the fact that they both got to participate in Girls State, and from a mother's perspective, I got to witness the value of what happens to you ladies when you're here for this time. How transformative it is, how you gain these friendships that are going to be lifelong friendships. Ada Ruth and Sarah Beth both are still very close to some of the ladies that they met in Girls State. They've come and stayed in our home, and you guys are going to see each other in Distinguished Young Woman, and whatever else it is that you're doing, you're going to continue to see each other on into college and for years to come. So, you know, I know there's a lot to learn in terms of leadership and about the state and becoming civic-minded and all of those things, but nothing is as important as the types of relationships that you all will build with people this week. I mean, it is priceless. To me, it is the gem of being able to be a Girls State attendee. It's such an honor, and I'm really proud of you guys because I know that you would not be here if you weren't accomplished. You would not be here if your counselors or whatever process that you went through in order to be named an attendee for this class certainly is a testament to who you are and your leadership skills and your talent and the contributions that you've made so far, because clearly you did something to get here. I don't think your counselors or folks just drew a name out of a hat and said, oh, they're going to Girls State to represent our school. It's a very intentional process. So congratulations to you all for this stage that has you here at Girls State, and as you're embarking upon that senior year where it's all about to go down, right? It's going to go down one way or the other, whether you want it to or not. And so it's decision time. It's decision time about college. It's decision time about where you're going to be, who your roommates are going to be, you know, all of those things. Am I going to take the ACT again? You know, just all of that stuff that's going on in your mind because you're in this culminating phase of life where you're about to go to that next chapter. And it's an exciting chapter. So embrace it. You know, you'll never have another time in life where you get to be an adult on somebody else's dime. So enjoy it. So, you know, I every year I grow as a person, and as I grow and I get to this June month and get ready to present at Girls State, and I've been doing it, Lord have mercy, for lots of years. I mean, well before the girls even attended Girls State. And, you know, I evolve. You know, and so let me say this at the outset, and you know, she's teed up my story, and I'll share that with you guys, but let me just say this from Liz Huntley vantage point standing here today. Never ever think that the thing that you're about to do next is the final destination. We no longer live in a society where things that we do, our pathways, our careers, our interests, and all those things are the final destination. Always know that it's really just the next chapter. I know there's a lot of things that we can all grumble and complain about that are not positive in our society right now, and a lot of disagreements and all of those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, I want you to, you know, stop and smell the roses, because you guys are going to get into some intense debates on your legislation and your positions about things, and all of that is healthy, because we live in a great country that was built upon the idea that a whole bunch of folks can exist in the same society and not all think exactly the same way, or being told to think exactly the same way. That's what's unique about America. That's why it was called the Great Experiment. And that not only could it do that, but it could do that by having a democracy where it elected its people to represent all people, represent people that don't even share their interests. Finding that sort of ideal of leadership for the common good, you know, but yet respecting the boundaries of folks and their own opinions. What a great place to live in. And you guys are kind of a microcosm of it this week, right? I'm sure we've got every political persuasion sitting in the office with opinions about all kinds of things. But y'all are going to all walk out of here as Girls State attendees, class of, so is it considered class of 2022? Or they, so 20?
Technically the class of 2023.
2023.
In school, but at Girls State 2023.
So y'all are going to walk out and you're going to be unified because of that. even though you have differences of opinions. Well, that's who we are as a country. And I think it's a beautiful thing that allows us to be able to do that. And we have our peaks and valleys where sometimes we're like a family. You know, some dynamic happens in the household and it gets everybody all, you know, mad and off in their respective corners at each other. But at the end of the day, we're still all a big family. And that's a reflection of that. And in this space that y'all are in 2022, 23, you're in this amazing time of transformation for society. You know, I don't know that people, I don't know how much this has been brought up this week to think about, but we're in a whole new society, not by choice. This has been where we are now as a society is really where we may have been 10 years from now, but we were forced to do things a whole lot sooner, and that is this pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has really transformed how we live, how we function, how we serve on boards, how we communicate with people, how we reach out to folks, how we work our jobs, how working moms are raising their children and not giving up careers. And, you know, it's just really forced us to figure out a way to do things remotely, to do things in a systemic way without gathering people. And there's so much, as horrible as a time it was, the pandemic, and including me. I mean, I lost my adoptive dad during to COVID, and it was a terrible time of loss for us as a society, but it was also a time of transformation. And so when you've read your history books and you've read about things like the Great Depression or Reconstruction or, you know, World War II and that transition, we're in a transition. And 20 years from now, this moment in time is going to be in the history books. You're going through this significant moment in time, and it will change your trajectory and where you're going to go. I was on the phone on the way down here with a friend of mine who's an architect working a job for a firm in California while at home with her children. Because of technology, because of the way that we can communicate, it's just going to open up so many opportunities for you guys. So as you met Ada Ruth yesterday, you saw that she's doing this job with World Central Kitchens, and she's doing this whole thing about providing food to those folks that are displaced due to some crisis or disaster. And I will tell you guys, when she was in middle school, she developed this passion for food, and I don't have enough time to go into sort of what we were doing around our family at the time that sort of stirred that in her, but it became really, you know, clear to me that this is her passion. And I always told the girls, and now AJ, that you need to do the kind of thing that you get paid to do it, and you're like, I can't believe somebody's paying me to do this. That's your thing. You know, it's no longer necessarily a career or a pathway, but it's your thing. It's your calling. It's that thing that you get up every day excited to do. And because of technology and how we live, there really isn't a thing out there that you like to do that you can't do and make a great living doing it. And it's just really a special time. And so she shared her path with you about all the creative angles that she went through to sort of get to the dream job and all of those kinds of things. So be open. Search yourself. Find that thing that you care about. Don't go do something just because you think, oh, well, if I'm a lawyer, a doctor, you know, whatever, I'm going to make X amount of money or whatever. Guys, that's just not fair. It's not fair to get up every day and go do something that's a drag to earn a paycheck, and that you went to school 4 years and studied hard to get to do. Think about what that is. I would imagine that Lee Sellers gets up every day and says, I can't believe I get paid to do this. this because she's such a natural at it. It's clearly her passion to pour into young women and all the other things that she does in her leadership roles, and she does them so well, you can feel it when you're around her about her passion. So I just wanted to open with that. And for me, it was doing that was even more of a challenge because unlike my girls, I didn't have a two-parent home. I didn't have anybody to reach out to or to guide me or to know my pathways. And so it was harder, but even with that, God still got me to my passion. And He did it through people. He did it through using people to touch my life. Now, let me just say, I will reference God in my presentation, and that's my truth. They asked me to come here and tell my story, so that's my story. And we're kind of a package deal, but I completely respect anybody's, however you choose to take your spiritual journey. That is your truth. Again, that's this country we're built on was freedom of religion and expression and all of those kinds of things. But my truth is a deep-rooted belief in God opening the doors and creating the opportunities and circumstances for me through people. That's how He loved me in spite of what was going on. And if I can be at a place where I'm doing the kind of things that are my passions, I certainly know that you can. I really believe in this sort of no excuses philosophy. The girls will tell you. I mean, we don't have pity parties much. Sometimes I'll let them vent and have the pity party, and then I'll say, okay, do you feel better? You got it all out? Now let's make a plan. Let's address, this elephant in the room, and then they really get mad when I'll say, oh my gosh, that's a lot going on. What an opportunity for you to stretch yourself now. So they're like, really, Mom? I'm like, yes, because I know a thing or two about that. You see, my parents were drug dealers. My mom and dad were drug dealers. I mean, we're the Huntsville people. Raise your hand or yell out loud. Where's my Huntsville folks? All right, there you are. So I was born in Huntsville, Alabama, and we lived in the Butler Terrace housing projects that literally still stands to this day. And my mom and dad were dealing heroin and marijuana. There were 5 of us in the house. We had 4 different daddies. My mom had given birth to us from age 16 to 21. You do the math. So by all accounts, it was a very dysfunctional situation. Very dysfunctional. I remember guns everywhere. I remember bags of stuff all over the table, piles of money everywhere. But what was interesting about that is, I was a small child, and I, because nobody was hurting me, basically Maslow's laws were being met. I had shelter, I had food, nobody was physically hurting me, and all of those things. That dysfunction was kind of my normal. And I really was kind of a happy-go-lucky little child. Loved my siblings, had no idea that they had the 4 different daddies. Loved my mom and dad, had no idea they were doing the bad stuff that they were doing, and with all the chaos that was going on in the house, I just thought they had a whole bunch of friends and folks came over all the time. It just never occurred to me that this bad stuff was going on because I was really too young to understand it. And so I call it God's cloak of oblivion, right? Like He had me sort of oblivious to all that was going on. But whenever you have that level of dysfunction, something ultimately will happen. And my parents were no exception. So when I was 5, my dad got busted for dealing drugs and he went to prison. And while he was in prison, my mom was trying to hold down the drug business herself, and she broke the cardinal rule of drug dealing. She started to use their product, heroin, and she became a heroin addict. And for reasons unknown to me to this day, one day my mom woke up and she packed up our clothes, and it was the end of the summer, so it wasn't unusual for us to go and be with a grandma or cousins or whatever. And she took me and my younger sister down to Clanton, Alabama, the little town I live in now, and let us go over to the West End housing projects and dropped us off at my paternal grandmother's house, my dad's mom. Took my middle sister to Hueytown, Alabama, dropped her off at an aunt's house, and arranged for my only brother and oldest sister, who were school age, to be with her sister because they were about to start school. And she went back to that housing project, and she went upstairs to her room and took out one of their guns and committed suicide. So now I do know I'm in dysfunction, but I learned about it in such a harsh way. I didn't have somebody that would sit down and help me work through my grief and process all those things. No, I had to understand what was going on by hearing grown folks talk and hearing grown folks say things like, what was she thinking getting strung out on those drugs and stringing these 5 kids across the state for everybody to have to take care of? And then they're sorry daddy, he's in and out of jail, blah, 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 blah. Well, when you hear that and you're 5, what do you start to think? You start to think we're a burden on people. You know, kind of nobody wants us. So here I was from this oblivious world where I thought everything was okay. Now, very abruptly, with a single phone call, now I'm separate. My mom's committed suicide. My dad's in and out of jail. I'm separated from my siblings for the first time. I had been with them all my life. I am hunger insecure now, which is one of the reasons I'm really, you know, it's really heartfelt that my daughter does that work now. Because, I mean, my grandmother wasn't educated. She had left this violent marriage in the 1960s, which was unheard of, and she was raising the last three young adult children of her 8 children on her own, and cleaning houses for a living and getting government assistance to do it. And back then, food assistance was not an EBT card and you get to go to the store like everybody else. Food assistance was you had to go to the county health department, you had to stand in line and get blocks of cheese and bags of flour and all that kind of stuff. So I went from having food aplenty to now, instead of 3 meals a day, it might be 2 meals a day. And guys, if all of that was not enough for me to have to deal with at that young age, within a month of me moving into that home with my grandmother, one of her young adult sons started to sexually abuse me on a regular basis. So when I tell you I know what darkness feels like, I mean it. When I tell you I know what it feels like to be hopeless, I mean it. When I tell you I know what it feels like to feel like there isn't an adult support system and you're kind of on your own trying to figure it out, I mean it. And I mean it because I lived it. But by the grace of God, I'm standing here in front of you guys today, you know, with a beautiful family, a wonderful husband, a great career, great opportunities that God has placed me in to be able to do so much to impact my state and other areas of the country. And I am so thankful for it. I am. But I did not do it by myself. I didn't. Let me tell you something. Kids, and some of you guys are, you know, they call it having thicker skin or more grit or, you know, more perseverance than others. And that's true. You know, human beings have different levels of that. But at the same time, you can have that innate thing in you that want to work hard or want to keep going or whatever, but if you don't have something there to help you along the way to do it, as a kid, you can't. It's impossible. You don't have those resources. And so when I wrote my book, More Than a Bird, it really was just a collection of stories of all the people that God had placed in my life along my way to help me in these different little ways be able to transition to the next thing. And, you know, I often like to, because I want to leave plenty of time for Q&A, but, I like to tell you where it began, and it's sort of why I'm so passionate about working to expand access to high-quality pre-K to all 4-year-olds. In fact, when I leave here, I'm going to the Department of Early Childhood in Montgomery because they're my client, one of my clients, and we'll be doing some work for them this afternoon. But when there I was in that situation where I literally, the people I interviewed to see what I was like back then when all that happened, I was all withdrawn. I didn't make eye contact with people. I barely spoke. I walked around all slumped over. And one of the ladies said, but baby, after a while, you just snapped out of it. You started doing good in school and you got a scholarship to Auburn and then you went to law school and now you're a lawyer. We're so proud of you. But guys, I didn't just snap out of it. I didn't have that capacity. God used education and people with a heart to serve to save my life, to give me an opportunity for a better life. And so, by way of background, we were also going through the early stages of integration in my community, and there were a lot of black teachers that had lost their jobs during integration. And there were some ladies, people just like you, that said, you know, we want to make sure our kids are ready to go to school when they go across town. So we need to open up a kindergarten, preschool. So they went and they got a community action grant. These were not even educators. They were just people that saw a need in the community and chose to take action and do something about it. So they went and they got a community action grant. They convinced their church to let them use their fellowship hall. And they hired some of the black teachers that had lost their job in integration. And they opened up a preschool at this church. And I was of age to go to this kindergarten school. Now, you have to know my grandma to know that I was going to go to that school now. There were 4 things about her that she never said, but we just understood. Number 1, church every Sunday. Door open, we were there. Number 2, mind your elders. I can assure you DHR would have had her arrested if they knew how she made us mind our elders, because she was old school. Number 3, you were clean. We may have lived in the housing projects, but you could have eaten off our floor. She had this saying, she said, clean don't cost a dime. Anybody can be clean. And number 4, she believed in an education. Education's the great equalizer. The ability to expand your mind, to learn a skill, a trade, or ability to be able to do something or perform in a profession is a game changer, because it gives you a tool for a pathway in life to own your own destiny, right? To take care of yourself, to have resources, to have a better quality of life. She got that. And so she heard about this school and told me I was going to go to the school. And I remember walking down to that school like it was yesterday. I remember just feeling humiliated. I don't know about y'all, but, you know, with my situation not being the best of situations, I was kind of embarrassed about it. I really was, even at that young age. And I didn't know how people were going to respond to me, because it was a small community. And everybody knew my mom was a drug addict. Everybody knew my dad was in and out of jail. Everybody knew that we were so dirt poor the kids made fun of us. And even though I had not reported the sexual abuse at the time, let me tell you something, a kid that's being sexually abused, you feel like people know. You feel like you got some kind of stamp on your forehead and people just know. That was my condition walking down to that school. And I'll never forget, I get there, and my very first point of contact, Mr. Willie, who was a deacon that was retired, and he had volunteered, or knowing those ladies, probably voluntold, that he was going to be at the front and help the kids get safely across the street. And so I walk up to the door, and Mr. Willie looks at me and he says, well, hello, young lady, welcome. Now, people that work in education do that for children all the time. But for me, in the state and condition I was in, it was like it sort of lowered and regulated the anxiety that I was experiencing going into that environment. And then I go on into the school and I look around, and the room was just so beautiful to me. It made me smile. Had little bitty desks that were just my size and these height, age-appropriate workstation. It was clean and bright and colorful. I mean, y'all know how elementary teachers do. You give those ladies $25 and a pack of construction paper and you got Disney World. I mean, I don't know how they do it, but they do. And don't give them a Dollar Tree, it's over. So it's this beautiful place that I'm going to be in all day, which was wonderful, because in my home, it was concrete floors, cinder block walls, dirt for grass. I didn't have those kinds of things. So I was going to be in this stimulating environment all day. But when those preschool ladies came up to me and they put their arm around me and they said, come on in here, baby, I almost cried. Because for the first time in my little fragile life, I felt the nurturing touch of an adult, and I melted under it. I did. I mean, in my home, when I heard my name, it was Elizabeth, go to bed. Elizabeth, go outside. Elizabeth, do this. Elizabeth, do that. I mean, my grandmother was a hard taskmaster. And I get in this school and these ladies are like, Elizabeth, great job. Elizabeth, we're so proud of you. Elizabeth, we knew you could do it. Well, I like that. And I also started to realize that the more you do this academic smart stuff, all these worksheets and things, the better you do them, the more they'll love on you. And if you do it really, really good, they'll love on you and give you prizes to take home. So I thought, well, this is a good gig, right? All I got to do is all this academic worksheet stuff, and they're going to love on me and give me prizes to take home. And I did so much of it that I ended up being valedictorian of my kindergarten class. And I wasn't even trying to be valedictorian of my kindergarten class. Really wasn't. I was responding to the love and the nurturing environment from that preschool. Now, we don't have time to go into it, but you can research the science yourself. My brain was developing during that time, and the trauma I was experiencing could have altered the development of my brain for long-term damage. But because I was in that school, it buffered me from that sort of damage and literally saved my life. Now, you guys are getting a foundation. You're getting a foundation from Girls State, from your school, from your community, from all the things that you're involved in. And you're going to take those tools with you in life, and you're going to have to draw from them. And you're going to have to make decisions on what you're going to do now that you know. Because now that I was in this great little preschool that had given me all this academic foundation and loved on me and helped me heal emotionally, and I mean, nothing changed in my house, and it wasn't that I wasn't experiencing those things, but God introduced something that was a buffer for that for me into my life. But just like your schools, your communities, all of those things that have been for you in your life, but ultimately, one day, you're going to have to go out there on your own, and it's coming around the corner, ladies. And I'll never forget when I got up the morning of first grade, and it was time for me to go to the public school. And no offense to some of y'all in the room, but to be around white folks for the first time, because I really hadn't been around white folks, really. And I was a little nervous, and you guys are going to wake up. Some of you a year from now, some of you a year and a couple of months from now, and you're going to go off on your post-high school destination, and nobody's going to be with you. So I remember getting up that morning, and I remember putting on my clothes and getting dressed, and my grandmother looked at me and she said, Elizabeth, I want you to go over to that school, and I want you to tell the teacher to put an X everywhere I need to sign on the paperwork. Send it home, and I'll send it back tomorrow. So it dawned on me, my grandma is about to send me to this school by myself, in the middle of integration, at 6 years old, going to public school for the first time. Guys, I was terrified. But I was more scared of my grandma, so I got my butt on that bus to go across town. You got to pick your poison, right? Just like you guys are going to get on the bus of life, the young adult life, 10 months from now, 12 months from now, wherever you go beyond high school graduation, when you set out of the nest. And I remember I was nervous and scared. The big kids were picking on me at the bus stop because my little community was so tiny that from first grade to 12th grade, everybody rode the same bus. And the bus would just drop us off at the respective schools. And I was nervous. I remember ascending the stairs on the bus, and the bus driver was Mr. Jerry Fulford, who happened to be an educator in the school system. And he looked at me and he said, now you come get right here behind me. And again, it was kind of like Mr. Willie at that school, you know, kind of calm down all the anxiety that was there. And you're going to encounter people. God is going to place those kind of people in your life as your trajectory is sending you off in a place on your own. And those folks will be there. And so I get to the school, I don't know what to do. I look on the wall and I see first grade. And I think to myself, well, I'm going to first grade. I must be in the right place. Well, how did I know it said first grade? I didn't have any learning going on in my home. I knew it said first grade because that kindergarten preschool had me school ready. The same way everything that y'all are doing up to this moment in life is going to have you life ready. But they're going to give you tools to help you navigate that next phase. So I stand there a little while, I don't know what to do. Parents are coming in with their kids and they got sheets of paper up on the wall and they would scroll down the list and they'd find their child's name and they'd go off into the module. And I thought, well, my name's gotta be up there. I'm going to the first grade. So I got on my tippy toes and I scrolled up and down the list until I found my name. I saw what room I was supposed to go into and I headed that way. Well, how did I know what a room number was? How did I know how to read and spell my name? How did I know how to navigate from room to room? Because of that kindergarten school, I was ready. I was school ready. I had the tools to help me navigate that phase of life. Just like you guys are going to have the tools that are going to help you navigate that next phase of life. You just got to have the courage to be willing to do them and go for it. Because let me tell you, there's a reward at the end of that. Because I go on into that room, and I remember I sat in the front center desk. And I sat in the front center desk because the ladies at the kindergarten told me don't nothing good happen in the back of the classroom. When you get your butt over there, you better sit in the front desk. So I did. And I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting on class to start, just like you guys are going to go, whether it's boot camp or college or a professional school or whatever, or your first day on the job, if that's what you do out of high school. You're going to be somewhere on a first day. And it's going to be you're going to be nervous. And you're going to be wondering, am I ready for this? And all of those kinds of things. And so I remember so much was going on, kid crying in the corner, child not wanting to let go of her doll, parent talking to the teacher. It was just chaos. Because it didn't matter if you were white or black or rich or poor. It was everybody's first day of school. Eventually, the teacher caught me out of the corner of her eye, and she started to walk towards me. Now, I have a little 6-year-old confession to make. This lady's walking towards me, and she's got this beautiful silk black hair, these pretty colored eyes, and guys, she looked just like Wonder Woman. I am not kidding you. She looked like Wonder Woman. This was the 70s when the show was on TV, when old school Linda Carter used to be the Wonder Woman. And as a victim child, I used to watch it and think one day Wonder Woman was going to come and save me from all the bad stuff. And so this lady's walking towards me, and I think to myself, could this be? Is my teacher Wonder Woman? Like, how cool would that have been? Well, it wasn't Wonder Woman. It was Miss Pam Jones. But she was my Wonder Woman. Just like you guys are going to have superheroes that are going to cross your path when you take that journey called life from the nest. And so she came up to me and she said, well, hello, young lady, what is your name? Well, y'all, I panicked. I didn't know anything about registering myself for school, so all that could come out of my mouth was, my name's Elizabeth Humphrey, and my grandma told me to tell you to put an X everywhere she needs to sign on the paperwork, send it back home, and I'll send it back tomorrow. I just spit it out. I had rehearsed it over and over again. Miss Pam Jones paused, and there's a lot of things she could have done in that moment. Miss Pam Jones could have called DHR, Child Services. God rest my grandmother's soul, will love that woman to the day that I die. But she was wrong to send me to school that day by myself. Miss Pam Jones could have said, I don't have time to deal with this. You need to go let the guidance counselor, Charlotte, figure out what to do with you. She could have done that. She had a lot going on. Miss Pam Jones could have done the worst thing that could have happened to me. She could have decided I was one of those children and brought her personal biases into the classroom. And guys, I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about people just have biases against folks for a lot of different reasons. Race can be one of them, but there are lots of them. And could have decided I was one of those children and sort of pushed me off in the back of the room, and I would have become invisible. That would have been the worst thing that could have happened to me. But instead, because of the way that I used those tools that were given to me in that foundational setting from that kindergarten to navigate my way into the room, we had a discussion about how I found my way into her room. And in hearing that discussion, Miss Pam Jones decided that my glass was actually half full, not half empty. Miss Pam Jones saw a resilient child. She saw a brave child. She saw a smart child. And in seeing that, With tears in her eyes, she bent down close to my face and said, "Elizabeth Humphrey, you're going to be the brightest student I ever have." Now, a couple of things to unpack there. That's the power of an early foundation learning that I always have to promote whenever I'm in an audience. That's the power of what happens, the reward to you when you utilize the tools that you've been given in your toolbox for life. Because I can assure you, whether it's military, whether it's a new job, whether it's a college or junior college or whatever your next destination is, people take notice of folks that want to help themselves. People take notice of folks with work ethic, that persevere, that don't give up, that try to figure it out. And they just naturally want to help people like that. So my reward was this woman saw what I did and decided, I'm pouring in. Now, I'll admit, I was 6. I thought it was kind of weird. The lady was about to cry. I didn't know what was wrong with her. But I said, well, I guess this is like preschool. If I do smart stuff for her, she'll love on me too. And that's what I did. And by the time I left her room, I was reading on a 4th and 5th grade level. And I was doing math on a 2nd and 3rd grade level. And nothing changed in my house. I asked her years later, I said, Miss Pam Jones, why did you teach me all that stuff? And she said this and got emotional. She said, Elizabeth, I didn't know what was going to happen to you. I didn't even know if you finished school in my class that year. But I knew this. God had put you on my clock. And as long as you were on my clock, I was going to pour everything into you because you had so much potential. And when I tell you that woman is loved on me, she's loving on me to this day. Because when I gave birth to Sarah Beth, she was at my house keeping Ada Ruth. And even when I gave birth to that little caboose surprise, AJ, who's only 7 years old, by the way, she was the first person in my house to hold him in the nursery and feed him. She was then and always will be my Wonder Woman. And life is full of people like that. But you have to show up. You have to do your part. You have to raise the red flag that they want to invest in you and help you. It's a little easier in your community because people kind of naturally know you and they know your folks and they, you know, and all of those kinds of things. But when you go out into the real world, they don't know you from Adam. They only going to know what you show them. So suck all of this, soak it all up. Take in all of these tools that you're being given, the girl state and everything that's going to happen, that's happened at this point and that will happen your senior year. And you show up. You show up, and as I like to say, show out. And let the world know that you are prepared and that you are ready and that you are up for the challenge for whatever it is that's coming as you go down that destination. And remember, that destination is not a final one. It's just a stepping stone to the path of an exciting life with so much opportunity to do whatever it is you want to do. So you all go for it. I know you will because you've already got the foundation. Just utilize those tools so you can open all the doors of all the opportunities of life. Again, I'm so proud of you and congratulations for everything that you've accomplished. Thank you.
We have time for 4 quick questions.
Oh, and while they're coming out, where's my Chilton County girl? Hey, okay, that's my hometown. I gotta get the shout out. All right.
Good morning. I'm Casey Merchant. I'm from Foley High School. I remember in 9th grade, my freshman year, that we read your book, and I remember you visited our school.
Yes.
And I just wanted to know, a quick question is if you came out with a part 2 for More Than a Bird.
So, I keep telling Sarah Beth that it's all on her, because the part 2 really needs to kind of end with sort of raising the children. So I'm really waiting. So if she fails, it may never come out. No, I'm just kidding. No pressure, Sarah Beth. No, but seriously, I do plan on writing a second book, and the book will be called Unparented Parent. I use that term because I really physically did not have parents, and sort of how do you navigate adult life and figuring out how to raise children, without the resources of your parents that are right there. And I found that in surveying people about that book, I think it'll be helpful to a lot of people for a lot of reasons, even those that had parents. The book that I am working on now that's coming out next year is called Gray History. And it is, I've been very emotionally distraught with sort of where we are as a society right now in how the bitterness and discourse that's out there, like we've sort of lost our way to respectfully disagree with each other. And I'm not a political person. I don't do either party or whatever. I'm an independent, and I support candidates that support children. That's my litmus test, and that's what I care about. But I do this presentation a lot, and I've done it a lot over the years, and I decided I needed to memorialize it, but it's a way to look at our history that's not perfect in issues of race, but to show how since the very beginning, even before we finished the last battle of the Revolutionary War, there were blacks and whites working together for us to do the right thing as a country. And there's so many fabulous stories out there, a lot of them involving women who were so courageous about how those partnerships work together. And I think that story needs to be told. I don't even know if I've told Lee about that, but that's going to be the second book. But the More Than a Bird Part 2 is coming, but I'm want to kind of get 2 that are officially done, and because AJ's on his own. He came late in life. Thank you for asking, though.
Thank you, and if y'all haven't read it, I highly recommend reading it. It will bring you tears, promise.
Thank you so much for the shout out, too.
Hi, my name is JC Pickett, and I'm from Sylvania High School. As someone who's going into early childhood education, what advice would you give me to be able to shape young minds in a positive way to make a difference?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you that is your passion and that is what you want to do. And I will tell you that, that's one of the challenges we're going to have. The legislature's been so gracious, and the governor, in us expanding access to high-quality pre-K, but we got to structure is, all you got to do is go to the sessions and learn, get the training and everything. But one of the ways to really position yourself, in order to be an auxiliary teacher in a pre-K classroom, there's only 9 hours of certification you have to have at a community college or something that even offer center.
6 out of the 9 plus hours.
That's what I'm talking about. So you're already ahead of me. Get them 9 hours, girl. And because that's going to give you that training, and even would let you work in it part-time if you wanted to while going to school. And because you're a leader, and you certainly wouldn't be here at Girls State if you weren't, you might ought to be ambitious and think about, how do I have an early childhood center? Because we don't have enough of those in the state of Alabama. I mean, the ones we do have, the waiting lists are a mile long. Because it's one thing for a school to have a pre-K classroom or whatever, but we found that kids really learn well where there's a center of a lot of those children. And so I'd love to look up one day and see you opening an early childhood center of your own, and having a full place for 4-year-olds to be and thrive and get ready to be school ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Hi, my name is Hannah Birders. I'm actually from Davidson High School in Mobile. And so I've had the opportunity to meet with Secretary Cooper before and learn a lot from her about the Department of Early Childhood Education and their initiative to start pre-Ks. And I was just curious what kind of part you play in their initiatives and just a little bit more about what you do with the Department of Early Childhood Education.
Yeah, so it's a good time for me to talk about. Anybody want to be a lawyer in the room? Got any? Oh, okay. Hey, all right. So I got some lawyers out there. So I'm an advocate for pre-K in my role as a board member for the Alabama School Readiness Alliance, which is the grassroots organization that really do the political push supporting DCE to try to get the legislature to give money, because none of this works without the governor being such a champion that she is and the state legislature agreeing that this is important for Alabama, we need to give the money for it, and we need to support it. So I play that hat. I have that hat where I play that role. But as the lawyer for the Department of Early Childhood, it's a little bit of a different role. I mean, I do all of their contracts, their negotiation with vendors that, serve them, all of the sort of risk management, if you will, with issues that may happen at sites across the state. Sometimes I'm the bad guy and I have to go in and tell a director we're going to shut them down because they're not serving children at our standards and according to our guidelines. So it's really, being a lawyer is nothing but being an advocate. A lot of times people think of being a lawyer as a courtroom style lawyer, and I do that, and I do that well. Now, I do try cases. I've got a trial coming up this year, but I also, as a lawyer, you can wear a hat where what you are is more of a consultant, to your clients, and you help them sort of navigate around things to make sure they're doing things that won't get them stuck in some situation that they don't want to see themselves in. So, I sort of like to think of myself as the fireman for DCE. We kind of laugh and we always say we're going to get Liz a fire hat when she comes in here because I'm putting out fires, right? And things that are going on. So it's a very exciting role to play, for something that I'm so passionate about. And it's an opportunity for me to also share with you guys about what I was saying at the beginning about pathways and how things evolve over time. I mean, as a lawyer at Lightfoot, I mainly did products liability law, representing corporations, but my passions of advocacy started to merge with my legal skills, and I've had groups and entities that have hired me to help them work through major challenges that weren't necessarily a court case. I worked for the city of Huntsville post George Floyd, when there was a lot of discourse in the city over how police handled the demonstrations that occurred after George Floyd, and was able to come in. Mayor Battle, he might be the next governor, I don't know. Mayor Battle asked me to come in and help with that. So it's interesting how you start doing things that you really didn't think fit in your realm of things, but they really kind of evolve. But thank you for that question. And what's your name again?
My name's Hannah Birders. Thank you so much.
Hannah, I'm having lunch with Dr. Cooper today, so I'm going to let her know that you spoke about her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maya Sports, and I'm representing Smith Station High School. The first girl actually, asked the same question I was going to ask, but I just really wanted to say thank you for being a mom of change and kind of breaking that cycle, because coming from a girl whose mom went through very similar things that you did, I just really appreciate the moms who, kind of break that cycle and are there for their babies. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. Okay, anybody else with anything burning? I know Leah's gonna be like, we don't have time, Leah, we got stuff to do, but anybody else that has something that they really want to ask? And let me say this, I apologize, and I should have done this in advance if I triggered anything for anybody in terms of your own story. I always like to try to do that in advance of my presentation just to give the trigger warning. And I apologize, but I hope you saw me sharing it as an opportunity to help and not necessarily to bring up something, you know, bad in your mind about some experience that you've had. And I hope you see me sharing that truth, as humiliating and awful as it was, as really it's a badge of courage for me. I don't wish that badge on anybody, but for God to be able to get you through a situation like that, no matter what the abuse is, whether it was sexual or emotional, you know, parents that are on drugs, you know, any of you that have had to overcome those, what I call, or I don't call them, but scientists call adverse childhood experiences, you know, I applaud you, and it's a lifelong journey. But I can assure you, and that comment made me want to say this, that there is hope for a beautiful adult life. I can't do anything to change what happened to me in my childhood. Lord knows I wished I could sometimes, with the memories come flooding in, or some student I work with triggers a lot of stuff in me or whatever. I wished I could, but if I did, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And I wouldn't be the person that's able to be the mother that I am to my daughters and my son. And I often tell young people that, you know, have gone through all of that pain, it can turn into purpose. Let me leave you with this. So when a pearl is made, it is a violent process. It usually starts with some irritation inside the clam of the oyster, and it agitates, and sand gets around it, and it's violent, and it'll shake around and do all these things, and it just goes on and on and on, and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up into this sort of round-shaped form. And then eventually, over time, after all of that violence and shaking and agitation within that oyster, you open it up and there's a beautiful pearl. And there's a beautiful pearl that somebody will cherish one day as a piece of jewelry around their neck or on their ears or on their finger, and will adore it. And I want to tell you that you will be a beautiful pearl. Those agitations and all of the pain and everything that may have happened, you are a pearl. If you're here today, you're already a pearl, and will be adored by whoever your partner is one day, and able to have a family and a beautiful life as an adult, because I live a wonderful, wonderful life. Is it easy? Do I not have to work hard? Absolutely I do. But I love every minute of it because I'm so thankful to be here. And all of you are pearls in your own way. You've all had your things that you've had to go through, or challenges or whatever, to get to the other side. So go out there and be that beautiful shining pearl. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.